And what is the difference between the soul and the body? Primarily, that difference is understood is that the soul is eternal. And as if we don't know by now, we should know that this body is temporary. Just like Monty Python's Flying Circus. No one escapes the Spanish Inquisition was one of their routines, their comedy routines. So no one escapes the hands of death. No one. So the fact of the temporality of this material body should already be understood by everyone, what to speak of gaining transcendental knowledge from Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. But he lays it out very nicely. The difference between the eternal soul and this temporary material body. Well, the Bhagavad Gita is very interesting and very enlightening because it gives us transcendental knowledge of so many different things, of our existence in this world and our existence beyond this world. Now, in the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled Karma Yoga, there's a very nice verse, verse 9 in chapter 3, where Krishna explains, Yagyartat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha tadaham karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. That work in this world has to be performed as a sacrifice to Vishnu or to Krishna. Otherwise, that work causes bondage for the performer in this material world. What is that bondage? Well, first of all, there's the suffering in this material body, and there's, in case we haven't been convinced by now, most of us are, I think, old enough to know that we suffer in these bodies. Again, no one escapes the Spanish Inquisition. This is the power of Krishna's external energy, Maya, and no one is exempt. No one leads a perfect, charmed life. Everyone suffers. But that suffering is antithetical to our nature as the spirit soul, because the quality of the soul is eternal, full of knowledge, and full of bliss. So you can't be full of bliss and full of suffering at the same time. They're bipolar opposites. But in our conditioned state, within these bodies, because we identify with this body, which is full of various kinds of sufferings, then we feel that we are suffering, although we are the eternal soul who is not subjected to that temporary suffering. But our misidentification with this temporary body leads us to conclude that we are suffering and we are unhappy. And that unhappiness, that suffering, what is the cause? Who knows? Who knows what is the cause of our suffering? Ignorance. It is our ignorance of our real identity. And of course we are attached to this material body. But that the very fact that we are attached to this body and this conception of ourselves as material, that is a symptom of our ignorance. So Krishna consciousness means to dissipate the darkness of ignorance that covers our hearts and to become enlightened with spiritual knowledge. This is also explained very wonderfully in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna speaks a series of 4 verses called the Chatur Shloki, or the 4 essential seed verses of the Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi jogam tam jainamam upayanti te. He says that to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them spiritual intelligence. Dadami means I give, buddhi yogam, spiritual intelligence. Yenamam upayanti te, by which the devotees can come closer to me. So that is the gift of Krishna, who is within us in our sojourn in this material world, traveling from life to life to life. He's with us. He's at every moment. He's within the heart. That feature of the Lord in the heart is called Paramatma. That's explained also in the 15th chapter. Sarvasya chahram hridi sanidiksto mataksmatir jnanam apohanam cha. That Krishna says that sarvasya, within the sarvasya chahram hridi means the heart. I am within the heart of every living entity. And he further says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So to be connected to the Lord in bhakti yoga, or the yoga of devotion and love, means to become enlightened by the Lord from within. So in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains how God manifests himself to the conditioned soul in two ways. And who knows what those are? How does he appear to the soul? How does he come? He comes externally as the spiritual master who teaches us spiritual knowledge and gives us enlightenment. Such a spiritual master is His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who has kindly spread this Krishna conscious movement all over the world and left behind his numerous books, which are replete with spiritual knowledge. And if we read and study these books, then we also become enlightened, both by reading and studying and also by following, by the way, following the instructions. It is by following the instructions of the spiritual master that one gets the mercy of the spiritual master. And certainly the instructions are manifold, and they're very direct. And we can choose to follow or not follow. And if we choose to follow, then we become enlightened. And we gradually become purified and make spiritual advancement. And if we choose not to follow, oh, woe was us. Therefore, in the prayers we sing every morning, Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadam nagati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one gets the mercy of God or of Krishna. But Yasya prasadam nagati kutopi literally means that without that mercy, one's destination is unknown. But actually, that destination is known. That unknown destination, it's repeated birth and death in this world. But that's a very poetic way of it being expressed. So this is the yogic science that Krishna is presenting in the Bhagavad Gita, which he spoke 5,000 years ago, around 3100 BC, or BCE, as they say now. When I was a child, it was BC. It was related to Jesus Christ, the calendar. But now it's not before Christ, it's before the common era. Oh, we've taken God out. That's the nature of atheistic speculation and scholarship. So, and just so happens, not by coincidence, but by design, that Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, right at the tail end of the Dwapara Yuga, which is the previous age. And right before he left this planet, the age of Kali, which is the present age, began. But because Krishna was present on the planet, Kali could not fully manifest. And the Kali is a very fallen age. And the people are, as the Bhagavatam explains, Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Upajuta. People are very unfortunate. They are misguided. They are lazy. They are quarrelsome. And above all, they are always disturbed. This is our contemporary world that we live in. And if we look around us, we certainly can see these things being manifest, especially more recently in the last year or two. More and more of the bad qualities of Kali are becoming manifest. So, but the one thing that happens in the Kali Yuga is that the people do not follow the prescriptions of Bhagavad Gita, that work as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Everyone is engaged in some sort of work. Little kids are playing, that's their work, or going to school. And everyone is doing something, maintaining their family, earning a living, cleaning their house. So many duties and types of work we are performing in life. And no one is not without some type of work or other. And even Krishna says, how can you even maintain your physical body without some sort of work? Even if one is a very expert, welfare queen, so to speak, well, there's a lot of paperwork to fill out, a lot of requirements to be met. You have to prove this, you have to prove that, you have to prove you don't have this, you don't have that. We know our Kirtan Yogi, his wife, works in that system, and she knows all the ins and outs of those things, the rules and regulations. And a lot of work is required. When I was a teenager, there was a science fiction short story about a guy. He was extremely lazy. But as it turned out, in order to maintain his concept of laziness, he actually had to work very hard to do so. And then he became an officer in the military, because he figured in the military he could just scrape by and just sign a few papers and not do any real work. And he ended up working so hard to maintain his concept of being the lazy man. My father was in the military also, and when he was an officer, and they would sign documents. When they would sign these documents, they would sign it in like a chicken scratch kind of a way. That's the nature of the bureaucracy. And then when someone came back, well, Colonel, did you sign this? And you don't say yes, you don't say no, you say, does that look like my name? Scratch. That doesn't look like my name at all. Oh, okay. Somebody else's problem. Pass the buck. In this connection, Srila Prabhupada tells a story about the lazy men. So there was one king, and he said, call all the lazy men in the kingdom to come to the assembly house, and we will feed them. Whoever is lazy, come, and we will give you free food. So all these men showed up, claiming to be the lazy men, coming to the assembly house. Yes, we are lazy, please feed us. So then the king told his minister, now set the assembly house on fire. So he set the assembly house on fire, smoke's filling the place, and they all scattered and ran out, except for these two guys. And they were kind of lounging around in half reclining position on the floor. And then one of them said to the other one, it's getting kind of hot in here. And the other one said, just turn to the other side there. Turn your hot side away, and then the cold side, that you can heat that up, and that way you will maintain. And then the king said, okay, those two are lazy, feed them. So he fed the two lazy men in the kingdom. So no matter how, those were true lazy men, they wouldn't get up to save their butts from the fire. So the king understood they were bona fide lazy men. Too lazy to get up. So, that's good. In this age of Kali, isn't that a wonderful story? Prabhupada is filled with wonderful stories that illustrate different points of Krishna consciousness understanding, which he said that Krishna consciousness is actually 80% common sense, and then the rest is Bhagavad Gita. So there's a very nice account of the four ages that are called Satya Yuga, which lasts some 1,600,000 years. Then there's the Treta Yuga, which is 1,000,000 200,000 years. Then there's the Dwapara Yuga, in which Krishna appeared at the very end. That lasts some 800,000 years, and 880,000 years to be exact. And then there's this age, the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years, of which 5,000 years have now passed. And if you think things are bad now, you ain't seen nothing yet. It gets worse. But that doesn't disturb those on the path of bhakti, or those on the path of Krishna consciousness. Because Krishna conscious devotees, we understand by following Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, we're not going to be around for the rest of the Kali Yuga. Our destination is to go back home, back to Godhead. As Krishna explains in the 4th chapter, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvataha chaktva deham purnar janma naiti mam eti sarjana. That those who become devotees and they understand about Krishna's janma, his appearance in this world, karma, his activities, which are all divyam, transcendental, then such a person, chaktva deham purnar janma. Purnar janma means another birth. Such a person does not take another birth in this material world, but instead returns back home, back to the spiritual world, which is our real eternal place of residence. But we have forgotten, and we have lost our way, and we've forgotten how to get back there. But the process of Krishna consciousness teaches us how to do that. So, in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, called the Bhumi Gita, Mother Earth, the personification of the earth, is lamenting what happens to all the people in this world, especially the great kings and leaders and politicians who are trying to enjoy their dominion over the earth. But they all are subject to death, and the only thing that remains of them is what? Some talk, some narration about their glorious pastimes and activities, but those are temporary and those are dry, and after a while, that's it. So beginning from text 27, I'm going to read a few of these verses. I thought it would be a bit of a treat for everyone to hear this. It's not something we normally hear at the Sunday feast. When the mind, intelligence, and senses are solidly fixed in the mode of goodness, that time should be understood as Satya Yuga. Where did they go? The age of truth. People then take pleasure in knowledge and austerity. O most intelligent one, when the conditioned souls are devoted to their duties, but have ulterior motives and seek personal prestige, you should understand such a situation to be the age of Treta, in which the functions of passion are prominent. When greed, dissatisfaction, false pride, hypocrisy, and envy become prominent, along with attraction for selfish activities, such a time is the age of Dwapara, dominated by the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. And when there is a predominance of cheating, lying, sloth, sleepiness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, and poverty, that age is Kali, the age of the mode of ignorance. That is the present age that we are in. Because of the bad qualities of the age of Kali, human beings will become short-sighted, unfortunate, gluttonous, lustful, and poverty-stricken. The women becoming unchaste will freely wander from one man to the next. Cities will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations of atheists. Political leaders will virtually consume the citizens. I saw a fact: the average American household will it will cost them $2,400 this year because of tariffs. Just to give you an example. The citizens becoming consumed by political leaders. And the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. The brahmacharis will fail to execute their vows and become generally unclean. The householders will become beggars. The vanaprasts will live in the villages, and the sannyasis will become greedy for wealth. Women will become much smaller in size. And they will eat too much, have more children they can properly take care of, and lose all shyness. They will always speak harshly and exhibit qualities of thievery, deceit, and unrestrained audacity. Wow. Ever been to New York? Wait a minute. Ever been to Tucson? Businessmen will engage in petty commerce and earn their money by cheating. Even when there is no emergency, people will consider any degraded occupation quite acceptable. We had an example of this, one of our refrigerators, commercial refrigerators in the kitchen that we keep the salad bar, all the salad bar items. Something, it went wrong and it was not working. So we called the service technician. He comes, he looks at it for a few minutes, and he says, yes, it's the charge start capacitor. I'll go back to the office and then I'll let you know, the cost. So after, several days, hey man, our refrigerator's down. Come on, I called them. And I said, so how much is it going to be to fix the refrigerator? And then they told me $800. And I said, is the price so high because you're cheating people so bad you don't get any repeat business? And then we bought the charge start capacitor on Amazon for $50. And our friend who knows a little bit about electronics, Dr. Chris Gijai, put it in, took him 10 minutes. So that is cheating. $800? I mean, okay, it's $150 for the guy to come out and fix it for the first hour. Everybody knows that. That's normal. But $800, and it only takes 10 minutes to fix it? But like I said, I don't think they get any repeat business. That's just bluffing and cheating. Bluffing, you can't bluff me like that. Come on, not that stupid. They say I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. So continuing with our narration, and thank you so much, Dr. Chris, for saving us. Servants will abandon a master who has lost his wealth, even if that master is a saintly person of exemplary character. Masters will abandon an incapacitated servant, even if that servant has been in the family for generations. Cows will be abandoned or killed when they stop giving milk. In Kali Yuga, men will be wretched and controlled by women. They will reject their fathers, brothers, other relatives, and friends, and will instead associate with the sisters and brothers of their wives. Thus, their conception of friendship will be based exclusively on sexual ties. Uncultured men will accept charity on behalf of the Lord and will earn their livelihood by making a show of austerity and wearing a mendicant's dress. Those who know nothing about religion will mount a high seat and presume to speak on religious principles. In the age of Kali, people's minds will always be agitated. They will become emaciated by famine and taxation, my dear king, and will always be disturbed by fear of drought. They will lack adequate clothing, food, and drink, will be unable to properly rest, have sex, or bathe themselves, and will have no ornaments to decorate their bodies. In fact, the people of Kali Yuga will gradually come to appear like ghostly haunted creatures, of whom many reside in this very neighborhood, especially First Avenue, but they're just spill over here on this side. We see these ghostly haunted people all the time. In Kali Yuga, men will develop hatred for each other, even over a few coins. Giving up all friendly relations, they will be ready to lose their own lives and kill even their own relatives. Men will no longer protect their elderly parents, their children, or their respectable wives. thoroughly degraded. They will care only to satisfy their own bellies and genitals. O king, in the age of Kali, people's intelligence will be diverted by atheism, and they will almost never offer sacrifice to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme spiritual master of the universe. Although the great personalities who control the three worlds all bow down to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, that means the demigods and the higher planets, the petty and miserable human beings of this age will not do so. So, these are just some little tasty tidbits about the age of Kali. And, this was written 5,000 years ago when the conditions were completely different, the social conditions and the material conditions. But we see such prophetic words have come to pass. This was not always the condition of human society. Although cynical people think that this is always the condition of mankind, but it is not. It's the qualities of this age of Kali. Now, later on in this chapter, there are a couple of very important verses that explain about the processes of religion for each age. And one of those verses is Kriteya Jayato Vishnum Tretayam Yajato Makai Dvapare Paricharjavam Kalota Dari Kirtanan. That in the age of Satya Yuga, the sacrifice or the religious performance of that age that everyone performed was meditation on Vishnu. Krite Yad, Krite means the Satya Yuga, Jayato Vishnu, meditating on Vishnu. And in the next age, the Treta Yuga, when the religious qualities gradually began to diminish a bit, then Tretayam Yajato Makai, that great sacrificial performances were enacted involving tons of grain and ghee and gold. And these were all sponsored by the leaders, the kings of human society, who had the necessary wealth to engage in those sacrifices. Then the next age, Dwarparye Paricharjavam, the religious practice for that age was worship of the deities in the temple. Like here we have the worship of the deities in the temple. But in the Dwapara Yuga, all the state resources were engaged in that worship, and it was very elaborate and very opulent. We couldn't, if we saw a temple in Dwapara Yuga, we would just be stunned by the opulence of the deity worship, how beautiful it is, how opulent it is. Gold, jewels, corpulent flowers, just a wonderful, beautiful, dazzling display of love and devotion for the Supreme Lord. So when you see in each one of those ages, there's a particular process that one achieves the same result. So what about this age? Kalau tad Hari Kirtanat. All the results that one got in those other ages by those performances is done in this age of Kali by Hari Kirtan, the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And that is the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement, to introduce to everyone and engage everyone in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Therefore, it is the Hare Krishna movement, the movement of the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And just previous to that verse, it was a wonderful verse that states, Kaler doshanit he rajan, astyeko mahanguna, kirtanad eva krishnasya, mukta sangha param vrajet. That this age of Kali, Kaler doshanit he, it's an ocean of faults. The ocean is what? Very big, very vast, unfathomable, like the Pacific Ocean. But imagine that ocean, instead of being an ocean of water, is an ocean of faults. It's an ocean of hypocrisy and greed and lust and selfishness. So that's the kind of ocean the age of Kali is like. Astyeko Mahanguna, but there's one Mahaguna, one great quality about this age, even though it's such a fallen, terrible age. And what is that? Kirtanad eva Krishnasya mukta sangha param brajet. That by engaging in the chanting of the holy names, kirtan, that's called kirtan, kirtanad eva Krishnasya, the chanting of Krishna kirtan, mukta sangha param brajet, one can become free from all these bad qualities and this bad association. Mukta means liberation. Mukta sangha param brajet, and one can go back to the spiritual world. And that is the mission, and that is the activities, and that is the program of the Hare Krishna movement. And we're pleased that you have come. Not everyone is coming, but in a society filled with passion and ignorance and lust and greed, we don't expect everyone to come. They're going to the cinema house or the bar or the nightclub or the meat-eating restaurant to engage in inauspicious activities because of ignorance. But here we are teaching the real program of yoga, which is Hare Krishna. All right, thank you very much. Our time has come to an end. And now we're going to engage in that big Krishna consciousness, chanting of the holy names and dancing for the pleasure of the Lord and tasting the ecstasy. And then afterwards, please join us in the dining room where we'll be serving out the free feast. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.